Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to the current episode of Your Winning Edge podcast. I'm Skip Balch, your host. I have with me real pleasure. I have Donna McCurley. Donna and I discovered each other early or late last year when I began reading some of her posts about what's going on with sales, what's going on with the sales process, what's going on with how companies are trying to basically bolt on to the sales process, all of these AI tools. There are just a plethora of AI tools that are out there right now, AI capabilities. If I run across another person that gives me this 3,000 word post that says that if you want all of this information, just reply in my DM me and I'll send it to you, recognizing that there is maybe some good information, but obviously there's going to be a sale that's got to get made. And what I liked about Donna's take is that there was a lot of here's what needs to be done, here's what can be done, here's what should be done. And now the question is, which I was kind of left with, Donna, is okay, you've now said what needs to happen, but the what, there's a chasm between the what and the how, right? And most companies, since this is a new thing, aren't necessarily going to have internally the people that know how to do the how. So with that as an introduction, Donna, why don't we, to set the kind of the stage, why don't you take a few minutes and share how you got where you are right now and why this is so important to you to have as your own company?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's hear how I got here was total accidental. I've been running sales enablement organizations for probably about 20 something years. And I've always felt as if enablement was not done correctly, meaning that they would say, "Hey, what's your LMS?" I've never used an LMS because I think that sales content needs to be dynamic. And I believe that every seller is in a different place. And so I hate the static LMSs. I hate the PowerPoints. So I think I've always been looking for something like AI, but I didn't know it even could exist. So just always enabling sellers from a dynamic perspective. And so um,
Well,
last
hold
year,
on. I'm sorry. Let me just
sure.
define what you mean by dynamic.
I think it needs to be my definition is I think it needs to be contextual. I think it needs to be real live data. Like I think the idea that somebody would create a battle card, from when you think about that competitive landscape, I think that's just so old school, old fashioned. I think when you try to iron it on a t-shirt, meaning any type of selling um insights, I think when you try to iron it on a t-shirt, it becomes old so quickly. So yeah, I think companies evolve and change, and I think that we have to create things that are a little bit more live. Now, I do
Adaptive. It needs to be able to adapt. Is that what you're saying? It needs
I
to
love
adapt
that
to the
word.
situation, selling situation that you're in.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So now you've now established that we now know that you hate LMS and you hate the normal process and so forth. So what did you start doing that was different then?
Let's see here. So the very first thing I did, this was when podcasts were honestly probably not even heard of. I started to create podcasts using what was that? Um, Oh, I can't even remember the name of it. It was back when like when MacBooks were first, when I was just first started using Mac, I would create podcasts that sellers could actually listen to insights like, when they were driving on the road to visit a
Hmm.
customer,
Right.
things like that. So really some live interviews of, hey, I can remember this guy named Mark that was like, hey, Mark, tell me a little bit about that client that you just visited. What did you try to, what are the challenges they were having? Like these really nice live interviews. And then everybody else could listen and learn from, Mark's experience. And then, so I've been doing, and I bet that started in 2008.
Wow. Okay. That's a long time ago today.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you started doing that, and then you've been doing this though for a number of different companies. You just formed your company when? Your new company, which is go ahead and give a plug.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you to skip when I formed my company. There's a
Okay.
reason. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Understood.
Um,
Understood.
but yeah, I can tell you that what happened is January of last year, I stood on stage to do a keynote and spoke to a sales organization and asked, "Hey, by the end of this year, every one of you will be using an AI agent." And I then asked, "How many of you in the room know what an AI agent is?" And like there was like one or two hands that did this. And I said, by the end of the year, this will be a common word. And then I said, and sales leaders, by 2026, you will no longer be managing a department of sellers or a department of marketing. You will be managing both AI and humans. Get ready. And so as we saw in 2025, that was definitely a, "Ooh, this is what's coming." And so I saw the writing on the wall and thought, "Okay, this is where my heart, my passion is." So I started writing on LinkedIn and sharing my knowledge with everyone, not selling a thing, as you know, not selling
Mhm.
a thing. And
Yep.
people started asking, "Hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this?" And then in June or July, I got invited to go teach at Microsoft, and I got to teach other departments how to build their own agents. And that was very rewarding and a lot of fun. And afterwards, a lot of the Microsoft people sat down with me and said, "Okay, what's your process? What's your framework?" And I thought, "Really? Okay." So that's when I think I knew I had something.
So you've used the term, and I think honestly, I think it gets abused a lot right now, and that's the term agent.
Okay.
Define for me an agent.
Good question. I like to think of agents in two areas to make it super simple. I say there's on demand agents, where meaning that I have to uh, tell it to do something. It might be something like, you know, research a client for me, do a follow up email. I think those are considered those on demand agents that are very simple and easy for all of us to do. And then the other part of agents is when you have something that might be more autonomous. And I like to think of it as maybe multiple agents connected together. So that's in a simple way how I like when I talk to customers. I'm like, either we're going to build some on-demand agents with some, and agents. When I say those on-demand agents, they typically only have three things. I like to give them a name, just like I have a name. I like to give them
Mhm.
instructions so that it's one clear output that they need to do, and then I like to give them a brain or what's called a knowledge base, so that they have information as to where what they need to build around. Those are those on-demand agents. When you get into the autonomous agents, those are start to be connected to maybe different tool sets. Maybe connected to smart sheets or some other third-party software or something like that. And it's something that I could wake up on a Monday morning and have, something provided to me because that autonomous agent went out and did my research and found some trigger points and things like that. And then on Monday, it's telling me, "Hey, here's some, accounts you might want to go after." Things like that could be in that category.
So it is what I would call maybe episodic and systemic. Episodic may be I go to ChatGPT or I have my own schedule and say every Monday morning I want you to give me the top 10 AI articles that have been written for this particular industry, and then give me a summary giving you my customers or my prospect list. I need 3 or 4 lines from each one of those that would be that I could then email out. Okay,
I love that.
right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So that would be one. But then on the other one, which is more systemic, one of the challenges that I'm hearing now with agents is that there's a lot that's really cool relative to the process and the workflow, but agents in their purest form are they can take information and make a decision on their own as to what needs to be done next. Not programmed as needs to be done next, but it will actually decide what needs to be done next.
Hmm.
And I think that when I read some of your articles and posts on LinkedIn, I keep feeling this chasm between what you're saying can happen and then how it actually is going to get to happen, given that all AI is about data. And when you're talking about sales, unless it's external data, you're talking about internal sales. And the number one challenge of sales organizations is compliance, and compliance with regard to getting the right data into the right places so that it can be pulled at the right time. And if you don't have the discipline to have that data always ingested correctly and in the same format, then the system's going to fall apart.
Right. And so I will say, I feel like the reason that I have a lot of success with this is because I don't try to get to that agent that you're describing is doing the thinking. I start with simplicity first, which I think is what makes me really unique. Meaning those on demand agents, they're kind of boring to write. People want to like, yeah, skip over that. I want autonomous. So everybody's getting into, these workflows. I don't build that way. And the reason I don't build that way is because if I build an on-demand, let's say that you want an outcome to happen and that there's three, if you were to write an SOP, there were three things within that need to happen first in order for that output to happen, right?
Mhm.
So I believe that you should build an on-demand, three different on-demand agents, test them, make sure they're working, make sure that they have the brain, the knowledge base, make sure that they have the clear instructions, make sure that they have the skills, all the things that you would teach a new hire to do, you teach that agent to do. And then the next agent, you do it the same way. The third agent, you do it the same way. And it isn't until all three of those agents are good that you then decide, okay, now we can connect these. And I think that planning like that is a game changer. People will try to build these autonomous workflows and then go, it's hallucinating, it's not working, it's doing this. I'm like,
Mhm.
start with the basics. That's my personal, and I think people either agree or disagree with that, but it's the only way that I've built so far.
Well, the challenges that I'm hearing to that point is that nobody wants to do the educating and the training of the agents.
Yeah.
Right, that's the boring part, that's the part that you've gotta go in and get all the get your hands dirty with regard to all the data, because you've gotta make sure that the data is structured correctly, right, in order for the agent to be able to pull from it and be able to do what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So when and what I'm finding and hearing in the marketplace is that 90+% of sales organizations don't wanna do that, and yet they still haven't decided or determined or figured out, why is it worth it for me to hire a Donna and her team to come in and do this? So when you're talking to prospects and they're trying to figure out, okay, we read what you wrote. It makes a tremendous amount of sense. I don't know that we can get there from here. What are you finding is the number one challenge that you have when you're talking to prospects to even determine if this is a project or a client that you want to take on?
Yeah. So, pretty simple for me is I don't dance around with like what I can do and what I can't do. I'm very clear about I have three work streams. That's all. My first work stream is considered to be I build out what I call a business identity. And within that, I won't think of it like as a consultant used to go into an organization and they would ask like, ask each department several questions. So what I do is I have an AI agent that does the consulting for me and kind of interviews. It's a very conversational AI that interviews and understands the SOP of that specific department, whether or not it's their sales team, their BDRs, their customer success team, doesn't matter. It's going to go in there and find those SOPs. That's the first thing. Now, what it's building out is how I like to categorize this is it builds out who we are, who we help, how we sell, and then it's building out that competitive landscape and then that implementation.
So let
So,
me stop you there for a second.
yeah.
If they don't have the SOPs, let's say we don't have nearly the granular depth of data that you're saying that your agent is going to go extract and explore, then what?
Most people don't. And so I tell everybody that it's like when you send a kid to school, we're going to start in kindergarten and we're going to move it to first grade as quickly as possible. And then second grade. You probably read a lot of my posts that use that metaphor.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
so I say, get started. Like, let's see what we do have, and then let's educate it along the way. So that first work stream
Yeah.
is
Right.
Yeah, that first work stream is designed to do that. And then what happens within that first work stream, there's also 7 what I'll call value drivers that you can assess. Sometimes it's 3 value drivers, but for the most part, it's 7 to understand the organization. And then what that organization gets from that work stream 1 is the bottlenecks. So what you just asked, hey, we don't have a lot of these SOPs. Guess
Hmm.
what? We just identified those gaps. We identify what you do have, we identify the gaps, and then we talk about a 60 or 90-day roadmap to say, how do we start to fill in those gaps? Where do we start? The work stream 1 is my gold mine. It is our whole planning. And then what we do is I then work with a company to say, okay, if these are your bottlenecks, and then this is what, the organization is trying to do. Let's create that roadmap. Again, AI does all this for us. So, it can last, a very short amount of time. And then we decide, okay, this is where we need to start. So then we move into work stream 2, and work stream 2 is about the building out those on-demand agents and then being able to have enablement around those. Because if you just have the agents and you have no enablement, you're going to have a sales team that's not you.
Can give me an example or a couple of examples of that agent marrying with the enablement.
Yeah, I literally just got off a call doing this for a client, so I'll use
Okay.
that one as an
Okay.
example.
All right.
Okay, so this client does events, and so there's a lot of onboarding of clients who will be presenting at an event. And so this onboarding process is a lot of questions, like very repetitive questions. Do you need banners? Do you need ice? Do you have wine? Like all those kinds of things. Well,
Hmm.
we have built a chat that will go out and do that work for them. So now I just gave them back like, 20 hours of time. Well, now they need to understand how these chats work and what they can do with that insight. So after we tested and make sure that our agent was capable of sending the right information to the client, and then it was capable of aggregating the right insights that the client needs to onboard. Now we need to know, okay, what else can we do with this agent? And they came up with ideas like, well, I want to be able to send a follow up email because there might not be some assets that they knew the answer to at this time. Okay, we can do. So we start to think about what all we can do with an agent afterwards. So it's not just about building the agent, it's about learning how the agent is your partner now.
So how you can leverage it. So let's say, which are I think those are good examples. They had and it's funny. I'm sitting here visualizing a chat bot where it's asking me one question after the next, and I'm filling in the answer. How many banners do you need, or do you need banners? Yes. How many banners do you need? I need 15. Okay. Do those banners need to have your logo on it? I don't know.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now what I've got is I've got a database of questions and answers. So if I looked at the next logical step, it would be I would want to have my I'm not sure if this is an agent or enablement, but and I don't know what the maybe the difference is,
Oh,
but so now what I want to do is I want the agent to be able to look at the data and then send out an email that says, here is what we have. Here are the open questions that are important, and then please fill it in, and get this back to us within the next 24 hours. Let me know if you have any problems. Can it do that?
yes. Yeah, we have logic in there that says, hey, if there's a question that goes unanswered, meaning it's listening for, I don't know, that follow up email underneath it, it says action items. And so you do have those
Mhm.
action items listed. And then you have, okay, that email goes out to the client. And what's nice about it is the seller doesn't have to remember like, oh, what do I need to follow up with? What assets do I have? All of that. Like there was a lot of hours spent in that. So yes, you can have that logic built into the agent.
So now let's pull this string a little bit further, okay?
Okay.
And that is if I'm managing 20 of these people or 10 of these people, and I've got all, times 7 or 8 opportunities at any one time, and I'm going through that particular process. As a manager, one of the things that I want to look at is help me understand the absence of information. What information, if it's absent, is important versus not important, which is maybe okay, and then how do I take that and have it determine how it affects the quality of the opportunity? Is there any correlation or anything like that? Because as a manager, I want to see signals, I want to see changes, I want to have alerts. I don't want to have to go dig for anything like that. So would that be a capability that would be an extended function of the AI agent? Because then all of a sudden now we're looking at insights. I've got data, right? If I look at my path to monetization, I have raw data, I have normalization of the data, I have analysis of the data, I have insights from the data, which is nothing more really than patterns never previously seen. But now I
Hmm.
have implications of the data.
Yeah.
Okay. And so is there with the AI and what you're doing, can it also deliver, here's the implication of the 20 deals that we just spec'd this week. Here the implication of the answers that we got back from the client on the deal and what that means relative to how we need to proceed.
Um, I love how your brain is thinking, but I want to be candid and honest. I haven't done that, so I wouldn't feel comfortable answering it. Yeah.
But theoretically,
Hmm.
if the
Yeah. I
client
could
is willing
theoretically
to
go, yeah, but
invest
yeah,
in that.
yeah. No, I think you're
Okay.
spot on with how you're thinking about those layers. I just haven't done it. So, yeah.
So to what extent then is what you're doing in those agents, are you finding it difficult or easy to integrate with the CRM? And are there lapses of data from the salesperson standpoint that are going, "Hey, you've got to fill this in. I can't fill this in. You've got to fill this in relative to the opportunity." Because one of the things that you've talked about a number of times in your posts is that the agentic AI is going to be able to tell you almost immediately where your opportunity is at risk and where it's not, and so on and so forth. Well, that requires a whole lot of data and training that is constantly, by the way, constantly being updated, right? Because new information maybe portends new decisions being made.
Right.
How have you found yet, and if you haven't, that's fine, but the integration of the insights that your AI is generating into the CRM and what impact that has?
Yeah. Well, I will say you probably read a lot of my earlier posts where I happen to be working with a really brilliant mind. Um, and we were integrating into the CRM. But I will say that that's probably the biggest hesitation my clients have right now is connecting it to the CRM. So, um,
What's
I've
causing that hesitation, do you
I
think?
actually, it's probably me. I'm the one who's probably taking a little bit more caution and baby steps because I think it's important for me to earn the trust of my clients, meaning those sellers. If those sellers don't trust, then they're not going to use it. And so I like to create a world where they still feel in control. That not feel that they are still in control. And once they get a taste of, "Ooh, that worked, I like that. Ooh, that worked, I like that," then the very last thing we do is we start to say, "Okay, now we're gonna start to look at our CRM." And I've only done that with 2 clients, and it was only because I felt as if their sales ops team was brilliant and really understood the mapping, and we were able just to map, "Okay, what if we were to fill this field in first? Okay, what if we
Hmm.
and we did baby steps in that also." Oh, I mean, that's where I am in my journey.
So it's interesting when you talk to prospects and really prospects at this point, and you're talking to them. Do you find that they fall into one of two categories? Either I don't trust my sales team, or I don't trust our database, or I don't trust whatever, and so therefore I just don't really want to do it. Or do they go almost to the other extreme, and that is I want it all integrated, I want it all right now, and I want to be able to show because I've got to show the impact.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I feel like my clients are, I'm gonna say, in the middle. So,
Okay.
and the reason I say that is because, um, so I had a call with a prospect of a very large enterprise organization the other day, and I loved how his mind thought. And one of the things he said is, Donna, if I could start all over today, would I have built this business the way it's built? And he's like, I want to rethink how I'm building. And I
Hmm.
love that because it really shows that mindset of a leader who understands that AI wasn't around when and this company's young too, but they took off quickly, right?
Right.
Um, and so because AI wasn't around when this company started, their headcount is large, their tech stack is large. And so that's the kind of conversations I'm having is I love the headcount. I love what we have. Could we be more efficient and productive, save time, their cognitive overload because they have so much to do? Could we reduce that? Those are the kind of conversations I'm having.
You're talking an awful lot about the sales process and about if you had to do it over again, would you do it differently? And that kind of thing. And about how there's a lot of efficiencies, which can basically there are a lot of efficiencies now. And there's so many tools out there. I mean, there are AI sales assistants now they're in various stages of success and so forth. But at the end of the day, is it really there's probably about 3 or 4 things that make up 85 to 90% of the value from a sales standpoint.
Yes, I'm not really sure what you're asking
Well,
there.
if a sales assistant can write an email as a follow-up, 2 minutes after the call gets done, and some of them are better than others, but, I actually happen to use Sybil.ai, and the emails that it produces, as a follow-up are better than I've ever written. From a perspective and tone and so on and so forth. So that's great. I can now get an email out in a matter of minutes, and it's good. But when I look at the integration of some of the information, there's still a lot of training that has to go on to make sure that the fields that are being populated in the CRM are actually things that can provide insights because there's not a real normalization of the data, right? You wind up having to use your own group of mechanical Turks in order to be able to interpret what's the next stage, whether or not the qualification is there or whatever it is that it may be. So I think there's a lot of elements that still require humans within the sales process. And I think that maybe that's part of the challenge is, you can't fire everybody. You're not going to go to a strictly, I mean, Klarna did it. They fired a whole bunch of customer service people only to have to say mea culpa, bring them all back
Right.
because there's an element of discernment that is not necessarily embedded within AI. So when you're looking and talking to your prospects, are you really looking are there 3 or just 3 really 3 or 4 things that are gonna provide 80% of the impact and the payback, or are there a lot of things?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna say there's a small package of things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. And the reason I say that is because, it goes back to that trust thing earlier.
Mhm.
I'm a
Mhm.
big believer that especially in 2026, that the sales organization should be human and AI. I think it's in my personal opinion, I think the idea of letting AI handle things, I just don't think it's ready. I think we're still in second grade with many of our agents. Um, and so I'm all about how do we do more without adding headcount, not replacing headcount.
Yeah. Supervised I call it supervised playtime. You've gotta supervise, what's going out, and, look, I believe this ever since, whatever, a couple of years ago when I discovered AI, and that is that AI is authorship at scale. It is the ability to have something author doesn't and that doesn't mean that it's finished, but it authors.
Mhm.
What might take me an hour. I'm a terrible writer. Writing is very difficult for me.
Yeah,
Talking obviously is not, but it's very difficult for me.
yeah,
And but I can write well, but it takes a long time.
yeah.
But I need to be able to edit it. So to your point, nothing goes out that I don't see and I don't edit most likely. But if
Mhm.
that saves 95% of my time,
Yeah.
because, I told a guy one time that I worked with who was brilliant at being able to produce proposals just from scratch. And after about a fifth or sixth one that he shared with me, I just said, you know what? God bless the authors because they make editors of us all. And that is
Awesome.
what AI does, is that it makes editors of everybody, if you're prepared to engage that way.
Yeah. I think the thing that I've tagged on to since the beginning of my journey is that I think AI is great for that non-revenue producing work. The We got to this stage in life where sellers are all of a sudden they have to do this and that and this tech stack. And even from an enablement, when I'm having to enable and onboard, let's say a new hire, it is crazy. I'm like, "Hey, here's who you help. Here's your buyer. Okay, this is our product portfolio. Oh yeah, there's 20 things in there. Oh, here's your tech
Hmm.
stack. Oh, here's, your methodology." It's a lot. And then we're like, "Oh, I hope you're producing in 60 and 90 days." That's insane what we're asking sellers to do. And I think
Hmm.
that AI, when sellers say to themselves, "You know what? I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to take that cognitive overload that I'm doing and I'm going to see what AI can replace." Which is what I do in my Workstream one, is we find those things that are causing sellers that time, whether or not it's writing emails, it's researching prospects, whatever it is that's taking up too much time. Let's test AI. Let's put it to the test. Let's see if it can do it better in a short amount of time, saving them time. And then let's talk about building out the next one and then the next one. So I'm a big believer in the baby steps, and I'm a big believer in those non-revenue producing tasks that sellers have been dumped on their plate.
Have any of your clients actually been able to quantify the value to profit margin of time savings?
Yes. Yes. And I
Wow.
literally,
Okay.
yeah. And it goes back to that example that I shared with you just a little bit ago.
Hmm.
This one was around how many calls these sellers were having to do to onboard new clients. You think about onboarding, let's put it at 30 minutes. Let's talk about 50 clients. I'm all of a sudden having to onboard 50 clients and I'm verbally having to go through all that. We absolutely went in there and I will not build anything without benchmarking it. What is it? CAY? I have
Yeah.
everything. And so we went in there and benchmarked what that's costing them. Me building out an agent that took care of that onboarding, aggregated that information, did that follow up. Yeah, we're saving, and I will give you real numbers, but I haven't pulled up all the data yet. But we'll just say an average of 20 hours per seller every single week. I mean, that they don't have to get on that call with that person and say,
Hmm.
banners, all that kind of stuff anymore. So, oh yeah, I love the KPIs that come around every single agent that I build. I am benchmarking it and I am saying what the new world looks like.
So if you were a buyer and you were a buyer of what you're doing, and the seller is not as uh, voracious about KPIs and really being able to define them, what would you, as a buyer, what would you do? What would you say? It's just, I don't have time for you if you're not prepared to own the KPIs. Because I think there's an awful lot of companies that are out there selling
Yeah.
that are avoiding as much as they can the KPI discussion.
Really?
Yeah.
I probably only speak with CROs, so that data has never not come up.
Well, it's come up. No, I'm saying is as a seller. I don't think there are a lot of sellers that know how to really do the KPI discussion. Okay, buyers want it. I don't think there's a lot of sellers that know how to truly identify, here are the KPIs that matter, and here's how we're going to actually measure them,
Oh,
because
you're
it's an
talking to
accountability issue.
okay, you're not talking about the agents being able to provide. You're talking about the seller to the client? Oh. Oh. Well, guess what? There's a phenomenal, let's call what do I call know your numbers. Know your
Yep.
numbers that I think I offer it free as my chat, that a seller can go in there and actually put that information in, and it provides those KPIs to their client. So, but yeah, I think that you can build an agent that understands financial acumen so that a seller feels competent and comfortable having those conversations.
Do you feel like most buyers are educated buyers when it comes to buying AI and agents?
No, no, and I love that they're honest about it too. So I just spoke with a COO a while ago, and she said, "Hey, here's my challenge with my sales team, and I don't know where to start." And I said, "Well, why don't I tell you what I do?" I told her, I walked her through the three work streams, and she said, "What do you suggest we do?" I'm like, "Let's start with work stream one. Let's actually figure out that
Start at the
roadmap."
beginning. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah.
I think it's one of the safe things, the enterprise, prospect that I was telling you about, I'm not doing business with him yet, but one of the things he said, I told him I do a proof of concept first. So I get to know them and they get to know me, and that way, if there's not a good fit, we both get the options to say, "I'm out," because I don't believe I'm for everyone. So far, so good, but if you do that proof of concept, you can actually get in there and understand their tech stack and the complexities that exist and
Is
and
that a
say,
paid proof of concept?
"Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So no free proof of concepts, right?
No way."
Because it's an indicator of how serious they are. If they're not willing to pay for it, then are they really serious about moving forward?
Yeah, and it
Okay.
provides just a lot of value too, so whether or not
Mhm.
they move forward or not, they get a ton of value from it,
They
so
get a ton of value, right? It's like speccing out in software. We're going to build you a blueprint, and well, will you do that for free? It's funny. The answer is no, because to your point, you could take the blueprint to anybody else and they could do it. Advertising agencies got used to get just. I dealt with advertising agencies for 30 years, and the complaint is always the same, and that is you bid for a job and you've got to do all this creative and so forth, and yet they never pay for it. You invest $250,000, $500,000, try to get a big advertising contract, and they say, well, whatever ideas you come up, we get to keep. Yeah, I don't think, but, and then you complain, but ultimately you want the business. So you go ahead and give away the IP, and that's really kind of silly. When you win, what do you think are the number one reasons, number one, number two reasons that you win?
I think it's because I have a plan. They can clearly see, um, what that roadmap looks like, where we're gonna start. I'm not trying to do everything in 30 days. Like, you don't hear me say, "I can put 30 agents in place in 30 days." Like, good for you for doing that. That's not where I am. But what
Right.
I can do is I'm about compound interest. Let's get the first one set up.
Okay. Okay.
Let's buy into it. After that, I can compound and we can work a lot faster. I think that slow and steady, I have a plan in my work stream one. I'm a big believer in the on demand, so I'm buying in that trust. And because I'm an enablement background with a huge techie, which I don't think that exists in a lot of people, when it comes to enabling the sellers, that's my passion. I want them to buy into the agents that I'm building. I want them to like I wish I could share this recording of when I shared this company that I'm building for the chat. When I shared that and said, and then think about what we'll be able to do with this when we get handed over to the customer. They were all like, "What?" That
Well,
is
it's funny.
me excited.
I don't know who it is. I'm going to investigate it now, but it basically said it's the law of something, and it says that if you free up people's time by 30%, they'll just find another way to waste the time. They
Oh,
won't actually increase in productivity. What is that?
it starts with a P. I used to write about it all the time. Oh,
So I wonder if that's kind of what's happening is that we're saving theoretically we can save these salespeople all this amount of time and so forth. And will they really sell more? Will they have more conversations and so forth? Or will they just find other ways to waste their time?
yeah, I'm gonna go with for me, it's more about that cognitive load of having to remember things, having to like I don't think sellers have ever been taught how to do copywriting, but yet a lot of what we sell needs to be in print, right?
Hmm.
I think that a lot of sellers have had managers that may have not always been competent to be a sales leader, and then
Hmm.
therefore they haven't been taught like how to do true discovery. Like I think all these things are what agents are designed to do. That's the impact. And so I wonder sometimes, are we measuring the right stick? Or using the right stick to measure, I should say. Um,
It's interesting what you just said, and that is because I have found it to be the case that if you've got something, I used to teach a course a long time ago before the internet. I mean, well, just basically with the internet, and that was it. But it was a
mhm,
long time ago. And that is how to become a functional expert in any industry in 30 minutes or less.
mhm,
And what it was is it was a process to be able to do it. But what people didn't get initially was that the key word in that description was functional.
yeah,
Because I don't have to know everything. I just have to know enough for you to feel like you can have a conversation with me, and then you're gonna tell me everything that I need to know. And so now what the beauty of it, I don't I no point I mean, now it's a prompt, right? And now it can be done in 30 seconds, but I think it's still about how much do I need to know in order to get to the next conversation? I don't need to know everything. I just need to know what's relevant, and chat and AI has revolutionized that process, without a doubt.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I love that you said that because that's one of the things that when a seller comes on is I say, "What are you selling?" And they go into their product portfolio. And I'm like, "But you're at stage 1. You know what you're selling? You're selling a meeting. That's what you're selling. You're selling a meeting to get to,
yep, yep,
discovery.
yep, yep.
Understanding what you're selling at each stage of the process is gold. I love that you said that.
No, it's absolutely, and it's all about after the first call, it's all about behavior. What behavior are they taking? It's words mean nothing after the first discovery call. It's all about behavior. We can talk about that at another time. When you have you lost any deals that you've gone after?
I wouldn't say lost, but I did get a call yesterday and they said they were going to wait until the end of February. And they're like, "Hey, we're still interested in the project. We're going to wait till the end of February." And the reason we are is because, what was going on in this sales leaders world. And they gave me
Mhm.
the reasons why. And they're like, "Can we reach back in February?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then I have some that are just still prospects. So still in conversations with them.
Still in that. Okay, so it's still too early for you to be able to share kind of your war wounds of when I lose, this is why people have said no, right? Because ultimately, when I talk about lose, I mean there's a decision. There was a yes, no, yes, we
Oh,
won, or no, they went with somebody else, and you haven't had a situation yet where they've gone to somebody else.
not at all. No,
Okay,
no.
knock on wood, right? What do you
Yeah,
see?
and I'm okay with that too, because 'cause I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
feel pretty busy right now. So, and I'm a big person who will only take on a limited number of clients. And I do work
Hmm.
with a very intelligent human being too. So he is my little partner in crime to help me build all this. There's actually two guys. So I love that anybody who's passionate about doing AI is like, that's so much fun to work with. So I'm not alone in this either.
Well, it's nice, and it's nice to have a client or clients that recognize this is just the first step of a journey. This is not going away, right? This is not a fad. And today is the worst day that AI is ever going to be, right? It's only going to get better. And what they're looking for, then it sounds like, is somebody that can take the journey with and lead them sometimes on that journey to make things better within their
Yeah.
sales organization
And
and
somebody
their
who's
company.
not selling any software. I think that would be the number one reason I would say people will go with me is I'm not a consultant that's just going to consult you. I'm a consultant who's going to do the work with you and I'm going to enable your team to learn how to do this and we're all going to work together, stacking hands and all learning together. I think you see on a lot of my posts, we're all learning this together. Anyone wants to make
Hmm.
you believe they got it, they're probably making that up.
So that's interesting. So now you've gone in, you've done phase one, phase two. Did we ever get to phase three? What is
Yes.
phase three?
Yes, I'm actually done phase 3 quite a few times.
Okay.
Some of my clients want that proof of concept to be stage 3, and I'm like, "Let's do it."
Okay.
Not
Okay.
a fan of it, but what they're trying to see is, do I know do I know what I'm doing? So that
So
proof of
wait a minute, you
concept.
can't even, so what you're saying is you can't even do the proof of concept until we get the foundation built.
No, I can do the proof of concept without the foundation.
Is
It's
it as
not
good?
recommended. It's not. Here's what so here's one that I recently built, last year, is there was an integration into Smartsheets. And so what they wanted to know is, could their current tech stack be able to populate fields in, to triage emails and Teams and calls, and then fill, fields in Smartsheet. So
Mhm,
I had to build out my phase 3, that Workstream 3, which is the autonomous agents that
mhm.
will extract that data, fill in Smartsheet. And it was the client's way of saying, do you know what you're doing? So that one was an easy one because it wasn't having to understand too much of what the client does. So
Right.
I'll say yes to those type of proof of concepts.
Okay. Functionally, can it do what we need it to do? Right. I got it. Okay. So what do you see you're talking to a prospect, you're listening to their scenarios and what they've got right now, what they're selling right now and where they think they want to go, or where they believe or where they've told the board they're going to go, and so forth. And then where do you see the future of the sales role in organizations?
Where do I see the future? Wow. I'm so focused on their current state and taking stuff off. You know, I'll I'll say it like I said in January of last year. I do believe that the sales organization will be human and AI. And I think we have to learn to trust that, like we're trusting a new hire. And I think we have to learn to train it like we train a new hire. So that's what I see by 2026. Is I would love for sellers to get more confident and comfortable working with these agents.
So now the DNA, the profile of a salesperson is different in the future. They have to understand how to work with tools. They have to understand how to work with data and with insights. They have to be orchestra leaders and not feel like they have to do it all themselves. But in order to be efficient with it, you've got to understand the tools.
Yeah, and I don't think it's any different than when the computer came out. So, there was a time when sellers would go door to door. It still happens, door to door. And all of a
Hmm.
sudden the computer was dropped on somebody's lap and they're like, I don't need a computer. Like, I've got my notebook. And every single seller today knows and learns how to use a computer in their job. And then all of a sudden there was software dropped on it. Hey, we're all going to learn Salesforce. I think it's just the next evolution of, this is what you're doing next. I'm not even sure it's a new DNA. I think it's just, hey, here's, you know, how the job changes.
Well, if I'm building a company now, before it was I've got to have 50 salespeople in order to be able to scale to hit the number that I called. Now I don't need 50. Now I need 40. Now I need 30 and
Yeah.
agents.
Okay.
I need 20 and agents. Yes?
Yes. In that case, absolutely. I think from an organization perspective, yeah, I do see that.
This has been good.
Good.
This has been no, I think there are a lot of insights into and I think it's important and I appreciate you sharing the mind of the buyer and what the buyer of these is looking at right now, and how they're evaluating. And frankly, if you're not addressing the buyer in this way, most likely you're not going to get past the first conversation. Right. And so what is it that you have to do in order to be trusted? My definition of trust is when you don't ever have to question the motive or the competence of the other individual. And it's not one or the other. Right. I mean, I trust my son's motives, but I don't trust his competence relative to fixing a car. Right.
Yeah.
So there's no trust, or I have somebody whose competence I really trust. But if I question at all their motives,
Mm,
then I'm not gonna have them do it. So it's about being asked to join the table, not having to sell your way onto the table, right?
yeah.
And so I think that what I'm hearing is the overall theme is there's still a lot of trust to be earned when it comes to integrating AI into the sales process, and you can't rush it. What I like to talk about is it's a process, a discovery process, And if they get stuck at some point, you can't leapfrog it and say, well, just trust me and come on, because a month from now, that's going to be the very thing that you didn't address that's going to wind up getting them to say no. Right. So you've got to stay stuck if they're stuck. And it sounds to me like that's exactly what your process is. It's earning trust more than anything first, and then everything else will follow.
Yeah, and I believe that when I think about earning trust, I think you have to earn trust from the user. So let's say I speak with that CRO.
Hmm.
I I don't see it. I see this flat hierarchy. I'm like, everybody's got to have my trust, and I need to figure out what it is that they need to see from me to get that trust. I think a proof of concept has been my gold ticket in. Um, yeah.
But the math has got to work first, right? So one of the things I talk about is investment. It's a very simple formula. If you want to get investment, then it's basically the math plus personal commitment equals investment.
Hmm.
If the math works, but you as a CRO are not saying, hey, this is critical. If I don't have this, we don't hit our numbers, then it's not going to get invested in. Or if you as a CRO say, I got to have this, or we're not going to hit our numbers, but the math doesn't work,
Yeah.
there's not going to be the investment, right? So you've got to have both of those elements of the equation in order to be able to get the investment, which is not just an investment in money. Do people underestimate? It's a final question that just came to me. Do people underestimate the amount of time that it's going to take for them to be personally involved in training in that phase one or that phase two in order to be able to make this thing work?
Do they under No, I feel like they kinda overestimate it. A lot of the enterprise organizations that I work with have had consultants come in before, and these consultants will come in for 2 weeks, and then they provide something, at the end of a month, and I'm like, "Give me 2 days."
Yeah,
Give me 2
right.
days, but here's what I need you to bring to the table. We're gonna dump that into AI, and we're gonna make sense of it, and then we're gonna find those gaps, and if they're not real gaps, well, bring me the data to prove it's not a gap, because right now I'm saying it is a gap. Um, so I would say that they're like, "Well, how long is that gonna take us, to build out that business identity?" I'm like, "Give me 2
Mhm.
days," you know? Yeah,
Only to find out that they only have 20% of the information that you really need. And
and
you
that's
say, I can give you a
okay.
partial. It's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
To me, that's, "Hey, guys, you're in kindergarten. Let's get you to 1st grade. Let's build out what is missing here." And
S-
we have a
Right
clear
now, you don't
roadmap
even know
now.
what, yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Right now, you don't even know what's missing that's important. So let's go find out.
Right, exactly.
So I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay. Top 5 people. By the way, you are prolific. I just encourage you to stay prolific on LinkedIn and so forth. Your writing is very clean. It makes a lot of sense. It's very provocative. I
No,
think it
I've been
generates a
told
lot of
that.
questions. Well, it is from the standpoint of you're saying it should be able to do this. It should be able to do that. You should be able to achieve this. And the reality is, yeah, you should be able to, but you don't know how to. And I think sometimes those are intimidating postulates, right? Which people go, okay, you're telling me I should be able to do this and so forth. So I don't know. I don't know how. I don't even know what that meant. But I find them to be very logical. And I think some of them, honestly, we're not there yet. The technology is not there yet. But it's not very long before it will get there. By the time you start, it'll be ready by the time you really get into full throat.
Well, I wanna say so I actually there's not a person that I follow, and I do it intentionally, is I don't wanna be persuaded by what people are saying is true. So, if you ask me who I follow, it's probably gonna be my customers. Meaning, I have a lot of conversations with them, and I wanna know on the ground level what they're thinking, what those conversations are. I meet with revenue leaders. I meet with them once a month. There's a big board of them. There's like 30 of them. I wanna hear what their questions are, and then I wanna stick to my process, and I'm so afraid of being persuaded. Oh, I do find that there's a guy, he owns, Winning by Design. I can't pronounce
Hmm.
his name. I think he provides some really great research, and I love how he looks at the sales process. I love that. When it comes to, like, learning, AI, I follow a lot of people that talk about Claude. I think that, when it comes to Anthropic, that they're really setting the pace of how things should be done. And then my goal is to reverse engineer it to figure out how I can use it in, like, if my client's a Microsoft client, like how I can use that in Copilot.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so I'll say I look at software, I look at sales process, but my gold mine is conversations with my customer.
There you go. I mean, when you're focused on this is what we do, this is what we do really well, then you don't have to listen to everybody else. I mean, it's interesting, as I am on LinkedIn a lot of coaching stuff, a lot of again, a lot of systems stuff, AI stuff. If you want to do this, and all I keep thinking to myself is, are they selling just to each other? Because so many end user customers aren't going to have the ability to be able to even use this whole 35-page Notion script that you wrote. They're not going to know what to do, how to do it,
No.
right? And frankly, and it's just, but I mean, it's good. It's information that's out there, and so forth. But it's just you're feeding your competition, I guess, and you're feeding basically the increased angst that people have about I can't do this. I can't do this, and I won't get the budget to be able to do it. So therefore, I got to continue to slog through
Yeah.
what
I
the way
love
that
that
I'm
you
doing it
said
now.
that because I will say I think the thing that makes me unique is that I'm simple. And I believe that I can we get more difficult as we build trust and move along. But I'm starting
Right.
simple.
Good for you. Good for you. What's a question that you would want to leave the viewer or listener with about how they look at AI and its role in the sales process
Yeah, it would
in
probably
their own
be
company?
tell me if I'm getting this right. What you're asking is do not move to workflows too quickly. Find the things that you do repetitively. See if you can move that off onto AI. Yeah.
So a lot of it is no, it's you don't need AI to do the math of whether or not it's going to provide value. You don't need AI to do that. All you need to do is understand what is it that's manual. What is it that, as Daniel Pink said, if it can be automated in his book, A Whole New Mind,
Yeah.
25 years ago, he said, if it can be automated, it will. So go through and do a process map. What do we do right now? How many people does it touch? How many things does it touch? And then basically say, here's my process. Feed it into ChatGPT or Claude and say, give me 5 ways that AI can make this, can reduce this manual process by 90%.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, now you may get an answer. The issue is you may get the what, you're not gonna know the how, right? And so you've got to be able to find a consultant, you've got to be able to find a trusted partner that you can bring on and say, "Implement this for me."
Well, I'm gonna change that a little bit. I
Right?
don't think that I would encourage people that if you are looking for a consultant, find a consultant that is willing to enable you along the way. Don't outsource it and let that like I wouldn't want anybody to outsource it and say, "Donna, go do this for me." I love working with people on the inside who have a passion to want to learn how to do this. And then I'm going to teach them, "Hey, you want to learn how to build this? Let's do it together." So,
Right.
because I do think that that's how we grow. And the minute that I try to keep it secret and private to myself, I think I do myself a disservice. So I'm a I'm an enablement person, so that means I share and teach everything.
Well, the reality is there is no such thing as an agent that can monitor and update itself necessarily. So somebody within the organization, sales ops or whatever, is going to have to manage the agents, right? And going to have to manage that they're not running amok,
Right.
right? And they're not doing some things. And so part of what you're doing then is you train the trainer. You say who within your organization is going to take over when we leave,
Yes. I tell everybody like that enterprise COO that I was telling you about. He said, "Who do you need on the team to help?" And I said, "Give me somebody with passion and then give me somebody who understands the tech stack. That's all I need." And that passion person probably needs to be a subject matter expert, or
Right.
they need to be able to go out and find that because that's really all you need because
Yeah. And
it
somebody that's got some level of golden handcuffs, because what you don't wanna do is have them leave in 9 months, with your IP in their head, and then you've gotta find somebody that can actually take their place. So,
yeah,
I think retention is now gonna be focused on different people, than just your top sellers.
I like
Um,
that, yeah.
so thank you
My
for
pleasure.
joining.
Yeah, thanks for the great questions.